All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. Today is Friday, June 27th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. I appreciate the positive feedback. Over the past week or two, I think we've had a number of really valuable, practical, important trainings. So if you've not been keeping current, I do encourage you to consider going back to our YouTube channel to keep current. They're working on the new office building, working on some trims. So if you hear some saws buzzing, barring anyone screaming in agony, please ignore the background noise. We're getting ready to move into the new building here in a couple weeks. All right, so today's topic is July goal setting. Well, as of this recording, it's not July, is it? It's June 27th. But as Debbie likes to say, success doesn't happen by accident. We should have a plan. Successful entrepreneurs, successful CEOs should have a plan. You are the CEO of your business. And we talked about that earlier this week. It starts with the mindset. You're not an affiliate. You're not an employee. You're not a subcontractor. You're the CEO of a management consulting business, coordinating with us, a 501(c)(3), to help build financial literacy, use the grant to get free shelf corps into people's hands, and third, help them use those shelf corps to raise at least $100,000. So as Debbie says, we need to plan. Success isn't going to just happen. We need to plan for success. And now is a great time to plan. Why? Well, we're almost to the first of the next month, so we should have at least a monthly plan. What are our goals for the month of July? How much money do we plan to make? And we can work backwards, can't we? You can pick a number and then divide that by 5,000, and that's going to tell you approximately how many shelf corps that you need to get placed. Because you know, between the front end and the back end, you're going to make at least 5,000 per client. So if you want to make 100,000 in the month of July, sounds like a big number. Don't let it scare you off. It's a deal a day. It's 20 deals in the month of July. Take weekends off, take the holiday off. One a day on average puts us right to where we need to be. I see B is contacting us about her clients. B, not a real good time for that, but B, check your text. I've been texting you. You've sent in 3 deals, and I've texted you about those, but that's better addressed offline. All right, so now is a great time to plan because July is starting next week, and then also we're at the midpoint of the year. So we might as well put together our goals for July and go ahead and project out for the second half of the year. Again, I know a lot of you are successful, some of you not so much, and that's okay. Each month's a clean start. But really, really give it a chance. If you'll go into July with the expectation of I'm going to earn, my business is going to earn, as a CEO, my business is going to earn $100,000 in the month of July, we can work together and we can accomplish that. Not pie in the sky, not trying to sell you anything, not MLM, not network marketing, not Ponzi, no cost. No, you don't have to sign a contract. So let's, I'm pleading with you, let's try that. Let's just try it for July. Let's go into it with the mindset I'm going to earn $100,000 in the month of July. And if that works out, why don't we just do it for the rest of the year? So July, August, September, October, November, December. Second half of the year, 6 months, put you at 600,000 before New Year's comes. Is anyone opposed to using that as our goals? Now we're going to talk about how to accomplish that. We're just not going to leave it as very abstract. But can you respond in the Q&A, which is like a chat box? Is that an acceptable goal for each of us to earn 100,000 in the month of July and then replicate that the subsequent months? I'll give you a moment to respond. All right, so if the goal is in fact to help a client a day, 20 a month, we're making 5,000 a deal at least, could be more. So we're going to need a few things, right? Because again, success doesn't happen by accident. Thank you, Debbie, for that. Oh, I just cleared out on that. Didn't mean to. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is have some basic knowledge. And we had that really good training yesterday about how clients can use a shelf corp not only to build a business, but also to buy a business. And we went on the Biz Buy Sell website and looked at some different businesses for sale. A number of you came back and said that was eye-opening, right? Because whether you're going to go start an auto business or FedEx routes or buy a restaurant, pretty much anything that's out there for sale. And I think what we found, 1,500 companies currently for sale. Regardless of any of those, you and I are in the best seat possible. There's no economic reason that you and I would, now there may be an emotional reason, but there's not an economic reason why you and I would want to go buy any of those businesses because it would cost money to buy those. There's overhead, there's risk, and none of them projects to be more profitable than what you and I are doing. But you have to do what you love. So if your desire is to own a restaurant, then go do it. Maybe this is just the economic means to be able to accomplish your goals. That's fine. That's up to you. But the point specific to number one here is if you went and bought a Domino's pizza, that's always my example. Sorry for that. But if you went and bought a Domino's pizza franchise, you number one, you probably wouldn't net 100,000 a month. That's very unlikely. But regardless of the economic returns, they have, I think it's 8 days of initial training, Monday through Friday for a full week, and then Monday through Wednesday the following week, where you have to go to Pittsburgh or wherever their training is. They have morning mandatory calls. I mean, you would have to spend a lot of time and energy to meet the minimum threshold to run a Domino's pizza. What you and I have, we can make more with no cost, no overhead essentially, but we can't go into it, as Debbie said, expecting it to happen by accident. So we need to have some basic knowledge of how this works, and it's not rocket science. But the great news is we emailed to you when you requested to be a grant reseller, a grant coordinator, an implementation package. And it has the required well, I shouldn't say required, the recommended trainings and editable pieces. And then we have these daily Zooms, and the recordings are on YouTube. What's my point? I think if your goal is to make 100,000 in July and you're not willing to go back and read carefully what was in that initial email, and if you're not willing to keep up with our daily topics, I think there's an inconsistency. I think you're violating the Debbie rule. Success isn't going to happen by accident. So, in no way am I saying that we got to commit full time to earn some full time income. I don't think that's the case. But I don't think we can skim. So often people will sign up to be a grant coordinator or reseller. They'll skim, if anything, this package, and then they'll call us and they have a million questions. And questions are fine, but you need to start by doing your part of reviewing the information that's been submitted because we've deemed that to be helpful so you can be success. Your and my economic model, I think, is the perfect model. Number one, we don't ask you to pay anything to be a grant coordinator or reseller. So it's not about, oh, we win and you might lose. And secondly, it's win-win because if you're making money, we're helping people, we're fulfilling our mission. So it's the perfect economic model. We're not winning at your discretion, we win together. But we need to have goals, which we've covered, and we need to have basic knowledge. And so specifically what I'm stating is please go back and review that initial package that we sent you carefully and diligently. And I recommend that you stay current with the daily Zooms. The past 2 weeks specifically, we've had really good content. So sure, each one's about 30 minutes. So if you went and caught up, that would be, because we didn't have one last Monday, so it'd be 9 sessions about, let's just round it off, call it 5 hours. And you might say, oh, I'm way too busy. Well, if you can't spend 5 hours to prepare yourself to make 100,000 in July, I think you're violating Debbie's rule, because I don't think you can just want it to happen. There's going to have to be some intellectual commitment, some time commitment to understand what we do. So that's number one, simple enough. And that's up to you. Second, we definitely need to be open for business. Sounds kind of obvious, but again, Domino's. If we bought the Domino's franchise, we could spend the money and go through the trainings. But if we're not open, we're not ready to sell pizzas, we're not going to make any money. So in your and my world, sure, you can get on our morning Zooms and you can read the emails and have an intent, but we need to be open for business. What does it technically, what has to happen for you to be open for business to make money? You need clients, which we'll come back to in a moment, and we need clients that sign agreements. So we provide you in that implementation packet the editable template. So you get an editable flyer, an editable comparison sheet, and an editable contract. Now, I believe, and we've talked about it before, if you're going to take those editable templates and get them into DocuSign or Adobe, some sort of e-signature software, what we've seen to be most successful is to build a contract packet. So at the top, the first thing they see is the flyer. The second is the comparison sheet, and then the agreement terms and conditions are the third document in that stack in order. So if you want to use the RMP, which I got the order wrong, didn't I? If you want to use the RMP, we'll build all that out for you, get you the landing page and everything else. But if not, if you're going to do it, which is fine, then edit the templates, use Adobe or DocuSign, and I do recommend when you put your contract packet together in Adobe, DocuSign, whatever software, e-signature software you want, stack it. So the first thing they see is the flyer. Second document they see is the comparison sheet. Have them initial on each, just not that they're contractual language, but just to make sure they at least say they've looked at it. And then thirdly, the terms and conditions. But again, we can build all that out for you through the RMP, or you can do it yourself. Anyone have questions on one or two? We're not quite done, but any questions on one or two before we move on to number three? You need to have basic knowledge and you need to be open for business. What's really exciting to me is we've had a number of you that have been around for a while, and all of a sudden you're reaching out. It's like we've piqued your interest now, and now you're engaging, even though you may not have over the past couple months, which is wonderful. We have the opportunity, every one of us, to hit 100,000 in July, but we got to follow Debbie's rule. We got to put some time and effort into it. It's not going to happen by accident. All right. Third, and from a recent training we had, which just was on June 25th, 2 days ago from the live recording today, we took a strong stance and we said, we want each of you to be the CEO of your business. And if you want to be active in sales, that's fine, but don't count on yourself to do the sales and marketing. Instead, we showed you step by step how to get an active and professional sales team that's commission only. That's commission only. So you can't say, oh, I can't afford to have a sales team. Well, that's not correct. Go back and watch the June 25th training. We showed you how to get gig workers that frankly are probably better salespeople than you or I am, and they'll work for you for commission only. So we need to have basic knowledge. We need to have our agreement ready. We need to be open for business. And then, of course, we're going to need leads, and those leads convert and they become clients, and that generates money. All right, so with that, our basic information, I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So our best way for support is texting, not calling, texting 903-347-8042. You can always email, you can schedule calls. If you're currently not a grant coordinator but want to become one, you go to 509pacific.org. At the top is where you participate in the grant, which is not what we're talking about. And then here is where you become a grant coordinator. All right, so and then the past trainings are on YouTube. So, who has questions, comments, concerns? Because what we want to do is between now and Monday, when we regroup, we want to have a plan. I want each of you to have a plan. There's 637 of you on training today. Can you imagine the impact we can have on our society if all 637 of you, plus those that listen to the recording afterwards, if we all created a plan? If we all followed the Debbie rule, if we all made 100,000 in the month of July, because if you take, we have almost 1,000, not quite, but almost 1,000 resellers, and so if each of them enrolled a client a day on average, that's 20,000 people we could help in the month of July. How powerful that is. All right, so who has questions, comments, concerns? And we're going to dig into those before we end. And we normally try to end a little bit early on Fridays because the longer we're talking, the less time you have to go implement. But the takeaway from today is we recommend you have a plan, a written plan. What is your goal for July? How are you going to accomplish that? Make sure you know what you need to know. Make sure you're open for business. And I don't think there's any reason to go it alone. Again, on this June 25th training, we recommend that every one of you hire 2 salespeople to work for you. They'll go generate the leads, they'll close the leads. You've outsourced it, so you can manage them. Plus, if you want to contribute yourself, you can. But if you set each of them to have a goal of 20 in the month of July, that's 40. So even if they only hit half their goal, your organization's hit yours. All right, so Jay's got a question, and so that's good. So with Jay's question, I'm going to refer back on 509pacific.org. There is a really important training, probably the most important training of them all. It's highlighted here. It's also here, but I brought it up because I planned to talk about it, but Jay hits me even sooner. So with it. So there's phases 1 and 2. It's really important that we all understand the 2 phases. So phase 1 is we need to have a fundable business. Most people don't, and that's where we provide them an express shelf corp. Shelf corp comes to them free thanks to the grant. All they pay is a processing fee. You determine what the processing fee is. So as far as time frame, which is what Jay's question is, we need on average 7 days to fulfill phase 1. And I'll go ahead and make it clear. Phase 1. Now I brought this up because there's a training on it, right? But and it goes back to so you can go to our 509pacific.org, and if you don't even understand the basics, start here. Right here where it's highlighted, if you click it, it brings this up. And so it goes through what we're providing. And let's view it for just a moment, and then we'll go back live. Give it just a second. I want to also talk about 2 optional elements because our goal today is full transparency. So on that training, we talked about, hey, by the way, we provide the address for free. For now and ever, we don't charge for the address. It's included. Notice it's the 3rd bullet. Mail forwarding, they just pay for their mail to be forwarded. And then we talked about phase 2, the funding program. The funding portion of the program, I should say. So this gets back to Jay's question. So phase 2 is the funding program. So it's really important that you and your clients understand there's 2 phases. They don't have to do both phases. They could do one, not the other. But Jay's question was much simpler. It was about timing. So phase 1, normally we can fulfill that in 7 days. Maybe it's 6, maybe it's 8, depending upon how quick all the processes are operating, but normally in about a week. So with that, then we give them the option if they want to move into the funding program. And they're encouraged to do that because that's probably their end goal. Jay's question again was much simpler. What's the time frame? Well, with the funding program, we're going to break it down into two sections. We'll call it Section A and Section B. What does that mean? Well, we'll work from the tail end. When we're at 2B, we are applying for funding. So we know how long phase one will take, 7 days on average. Jay's question is, how long does the process take? Well, once we apply for funding, then it depends upon the lender, it depends on the amount of capital, but let's just use average. If we're using the normal shelf corp, which comes ready for 100,000, so it's a simple working capital loan, it's normally 15 to 30 days to get them an SBA or similar term loan. Now, what that doesn't count for, uh-oh, let's get this back here, is section 2A. What happens here? I'll put some asterisk. So this is where the timeline is least certain. We know what to expect in phase one. We know what to expect in phase 2B. Once we apply, normally it's funded in 15 to 30 days. Could be sooner, but to state reasonable expectations. As far as 2A, that's where we're preparing the file. So we have a business owner, we have a business, a fundable business, but now we need to do things like, well, for instance, the credit sweep is now included. So if the owner has less than optimal credit, we help them for free, which is great. Well, that would happen in phase 2A. Normally, we'll add business trade lines under the EIN. That's normally happening in phase 2A. So, dependent upon what needs to be done, 2A can have some variability. Let's go back to yesterday's training. Let's say their goal is to go buy an existing business. Well, then we need to get data from the seller of that business. That's part of what happens in 2A. Do they get it to us quickly? Do they get it to us slowly? So there's more variability in 2A. But normally, this should be a 30-day process. Could be less, but if we wanted to paint a very reasonable expectation, we can get them their shelf corp documents in 7 days. Phase two is broken into kind of the prep phase, normally 30 days. But during that time, we can be adding trade lines. And these can be real trade lines, primary trade lines that are usable. So business credit cards, business automobiles, business lines of credit. So frankly, they're seeing access to capital during 2A, but the real goal in almost every instance is to go get a big term loan. And that is once we have the file fully prepped. So hopefully that helps you understand there are two phases, but there are two elements to phase two. Clients don't have to do phase one and phase two. Most of them do. If they already have a fundable business, they can go right to phase two, but that's rarely the case. So hopefully that helped. But I certainly recommend going back and watching this training, which is on our home page, to get a basis of understanding. Yaman's asking about the credit sweep. Fair enough. So let's go back to that. So if the client, once the client's in phase two, we're going to do an intake form in which we had a training on. We've shown you how that looks and how that works. So we understand exactly what's the amount of capital they're looking to raise. What are they going to use it for? We do the credit evaluation to see if we need to do any tweaking on their personal credit, which is free, it's included. We determine, do we want to add trade lines to the business, which we'd recommend, but they could skip that step if they want. So we're working with them one-on-one during this time frame. In contrast, this first 7 days, there's not a whole lot for us to talk to them about. They've signed up, they've paid. We need to do our job. We normally need 7 days to fulfill that. All right, well, hopefully we've accomplished what we intended to, which was let's set a goal for the month of July. We encourage you to set the goal at 100,000, but that's up to you. We've talked about what we need to do to be able to accomplish that. And then we answered some random questions. With that being said, if anyone else needs assistance, let me know. But please, please, please check your texts. We've been texting you about the 3 clients that you submitted. We don't have the agreement. So what happens is you all as resellers, you get clients under agreement and we set up a portal. So normally you upload the client in the portal. B's awesome. She's enrolled 3 people recently, but she's not uploaded any of the contracts into her portal. So we're not able to implement. And we've been trying to reach out to her, and whatever reason she's trying to reach out to us now, which is fine. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back on Monday. Let us know what we can do to help you reach your goal for hopefully at least 100,000 in your pocket in July. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.